Welcome to Inside ArtScroll, where the books that we read and the people that write them come to life. It's a distinct chus to welcome Rabbi Shimon Finkelman to ArtScroll Studios. Shalom Aleichem. It's great to have you here, Rabbi.
It's great to see you.
And the conversation here is about a book which I didn't know that anyone could write. It's a book that tries to encapsulate the life of the mashgiach, Rav Moshe Wolfson, Zchrono Livracha, the founder of emunah Yisrael. Is that a good way to say it?
Mashgiach of Torah.
Mashgiach of Torah. But it does a very beautiful job. And we're here to talk a little bit about the process of writing it, and obviously more importantly, the life of the mashgiach himself. So Rabbi Finkelman, bring us into the humble beginnings of Rav Moshe Wolfson, because it seems like even just from reading the book, he was born great.
He was born perhaps to a wonderful family.
For sure.
With, I guess, good midas, but he certainly worked on himself very much his whole life, till his last day, to be who he was.
That's for sure. But it seems like even as a younger bacher, when Hasmada in the United States was probably a forgotten art, he would sit in the base medrash, and what was it, the Polish shtibel?
Yes.
And he would learn. They said if you wanted to find him, you'd find him in the Polish shtibel.
That's correct.
Where did he get those musagim or those concepts from? It wasn't a popular thing.
Well, he didn't speak much about himself, and he didn't speak much about his parents. But the little that he said gives us some idea. His father was a so-called balabas. He was a mashgiach for a matzah bakery. And his father had a choice of working by day or working at night. And he chose the night shift so he would not be rushed in his shachris. That's why he chose the night shift, to be able to daven slowly every morning for shachris. So, and that's one thing he said about his father. He also said that his father, every Shabbos, by Mim Koimcha, in Kedusha of Shachris, he would cry every Shachris, and that made a big impression on his son. So
he cried by Masai Timlach B'Tzion. When did he?
Yes, yeah. I believe so. Yeah,
like a yearning for
Mashiach, yearning for Tzion. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So he certainly had wonderful role models to learn from.
And his mother as well was a
very special lady.
Person.
Very special lady. We have in the book one little incident where she was cheated by someone, and her boss said to her, what are you going to do about it? And she said, well, everybody makes mistakes. So she was also a very special person.
Now, what did Rav Moshe, did the mashgiach have chinuch experience as a teenager, or it only happened a little bit later in life?
Well, his Rebbe Muvak was Rav Shlomo Mendelovich, that's the
Mr. Mendelovich.
Right, Mr. Mendelovich, he called himself the founder of Mesivta Torah. He was he said, even though he had many, there were many Rebbes he was close to. He was close to Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, to Rav Ram Pam, Zechron Livracha. But he said his main Rebbe was definitely Rav Shlomo Feivel. And Rav Shlomo Feivel obviously saw something in him, because when he had a bacher in his early 20s, and a group of 35 boys came from South America to Torah Vadas who didn't speak English or Yiddish, he chose Moshe Wolfson, a bacher, to be their Rebbe. That was his first teaching position. And he was successful. In fact, we have Baruch Hashem in emunah Yisrael today. Reb David Wialgis was in that first class in 1946, and he said he was fantastic. Somehow he communicated with them. With the language barrier, he managed to communicate with them.
It was the Varam Hayotzim and Alev.
That's right. That's right.
Can we take a step back before we unpack a little bit more about the mashgiach himself? Or I think when I know that you've been part of emunah Yisrael, the shul, the community, the kehila, probably for decades.
Since its beginning.
Since its inception. What is emunah Yisrael?
Emunah Yisrael is a kehila founded by Rav Wolfson, not by choice, meaning that Rav Wolfson all his life never sought any position of any sort. He was been content to be a first grade Rebbe, which he was, right, and just serve the Rebbeinu Shalom privately his whole life. But without going through the whole history, through Hashgacha Pratis, he became mashgiach of Torah Vadas, and from there he became Maneg Ruchni of Camp Torah Vadas. In Camp Torah Vadas, one of his main role was leading the Masmidim program, and he infused them with appreciation for tefillah and avodas Hashem in general, and he put a lot of effort into those talmidim. And at some point, the talmidim asked Rav Wolfson if they could start a shul, because it bothered them that the davening they were used to in camp was not what they were used to back at home, back in the city.
It was on a higher level, the davening in
camp. It
It was just his mahalach.
His mahalach, right. He would come for Shabbos once in a while. But that's how it began. And it just grew and grew. It started with maybe 25 bachrim. And eventually they got married. And Baruch Hashem today in Borough Park, Emunah Yisrael has, I would say, probably 300 members, families, B'li and Hara. It's a large shul. And there are branches in Lakewood, Monsey, Yerushalayim, and Beitar.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Why did he choose the name Emunah Yisrael? Because
emunah was the theme of his life, emunah. He spoke about it all the time. Be mechazik emunah, different emunah in Hashem, emunah in the goodness of a yid, of the sharish that every yid, Hashem loves every yid, emunah's chachamim, and so he named it Emunah Yisrael after the Baal Shem Tov. He said we go in the Chasidus follows the derech of the Baal Shem Tov, so he chose the name Emunah Yisrael.
Was there a particular Chasidus that he aligned with?
He was a skvera chassid. Mm-hmm. All his, it started out, he was close with the Mojitzer Rebbe. Mojitzer Rebbe passed away, he became close to the previous skvera Rebbe Zatzal, and then he became close to the present skvera Rebbe, who's much younger than he was, but yet he was Sheol Eitzah by him all the time, but he was also close. What was something that was unique about Rav Wolfson was he drank from everybody. He loved every Yid, and he drank from every stripe of Torah Yiddishkeit. He was close. Satmar Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe, Skver Rebbe, Mojitzer Rebbe, Kleiserbinger Rebbe. I must have left one of them out. And I said before, Rabbi Finkelman, he told me when I was a bacher, there was a situation where I needed a good eitzah. He wanted me to speak to Rabbi Kamenetsky, and it could not be arranged. So he told me what he held, and he said to me, I like to think that when I give people advice, it's based on what Rabbi Kamenetsky taught me. Rabbi was Rosh Hashiva, and he was the mashgiach. Yes, so.
Rabbi Finkelman, when was the first time you met the mashgiach?
I learned in Tarvadas. So I saw in the Beis Medrash. So I left Tarvadas when I was 19, but I continued going to Camp Tarvadas. Mm. And I really, in Camp Tarvadas, although he was busy with the Masmidim, and I was a counselor or a division head, but we had a lot to do with the mashgiach because he was a big believer in color war. He was a very broad-minded person. He felt that if you use the theme of color war, the team themes, right, the children could come home with a tremendous amount of Yiddishkeit and Yerushalayim. And we, not just I, but a number of friends of mine, when we had to write a speech for a banner presentation, we would go to the mashgiach for advice, for Divrei Torah. When we needed a grand play for color war, we would go to him sometimes for a story, and he would sit with us and give us stories. He would sometimes come and watch the banner presentations. I don't think he so much wanted to hear the speech. He wanted to give chizuk to the speakers. So he came. He would come to the grand sing.
And when did you personally get a shaychus or a kesher to him?
A lot was in camp, and then when the Emunah Yisrael started and I joined the Emunah Yisrael, I continued my kesher with him till he passed away, till 2 years ago. He was nifter.
And he was nifter at the age of over 100?
Almost 100. Yeah, almost 100. Yeah.
Did the mashgiach wear a shtreimel?
No, he did not, except the last year of his life, he wore a shtreimel at home, only at home. It's a footnote in the book. A shtreimel is it's the kavod Shabbos. It's a dignified headgear, hat for a Hasidic Yid. But over the course of his long life, he considered putting one on. And again, in his humility, at one point he was shoyel eitzah by the Rav Moshe Wolfson of Borough Park to ask him if he should put a shtreimel on or not. And amazingly, the Rav Moshe Wolfson, who also was a very broad-minded person, told him that he thinks his hashpah is much wider because he doesn't wear a shtreimel and people feel they can relate to him more. So he advised him not to wear a shtreimel. So he didn't, but he wanted to put one on towards the end of his life because he said, it's brought down in Sfarim, that in the next world, a person wears the clothing he wore on Shabbos. And he said he hoped he'll be able to see the tzaddikim he was close with, and they're all going to be wearing shtreimelach, and he's going to be the only one without a shtreimel. But he knew that at age 99, to put on a shtreimel will cause a stir, and the last thing he wanted was publicity. So he put one on only at home.
As somebody who's been a part of emunah Yisrael for decades, did it also attract diversity? Like, did more modern people come to the shul sometimes? Did people who were visiting Borough Park come to daven there? And if yes, did Rav Wolfson have a kesher, a zug, a spracha, a language with these people, a shared language?
He had a sprach with everyone. He was American born, spoke perfect English. In fact, a contingent from YU started coming to emunah Yisrael. They would come to Borough Park for Shabbos. And at one point, one of those Bachrim approached Rav Wolfson and asked if he would give them a shir in Tanya, in Sefer Tanya, in English. Till then, his shirim were all in Yiddish. And he agreed to do it at home once a week. His Rebbitzin said to him, if you have extra time, why not give it to the Bachrim of emunah Yisrael? He gave a lot of time to the Bachrim of emunah Yisrael, but if you have an hour a week, he said, I think there'll be a big tayalas from this. And those shiurim were recorded, and eventually Mrs. Vorhand, who davens in emunah Yisrael, made a beautiful book out of those shiurim. No, I'm sorry. That was other shiurim he gave in English on emunah. This is on Tanya. One of the Bachrim, Rabbi Zev Reichman, today he's a Rav.
Sure.
Rabbi Zev Reichman made a book, I think it's called Flames of Faith, based on those Tanya shiurim.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so he could communicate with everyone. People, all kinds of people would come, all kinds of people.
Was there a moment in the calendar year that, as someone who participated with him, mamish, all the time, you felt like was Rav Wolfson's, he was in a different place or a different space?
Well, every Shabbos with him was special. Every Shabbos. He davened 3 times a day, 6 days a week in Shema Keleinu. He and his Rebbitzin should be zeicha to a wonderful, uplifting Shabbos. Yes. He shone on Shabbos. It was just different. But if he had to pick a highlight of the year in emunah Yisrael, it was the Purim Suda. As people would eat the Suda at home, with having in mind to bench in shul, and we'd come to shul around 8:30 p.m. at the end of Purim, going into Shushan Purim, and the mashgiach Zatzal would lead the Purim Suda till around 1 in the morning, even when he was 99 years old, right, 3 months before he was nifter. He led the Purim Suda for 3 hours. 3 hours. He would, he always chose Nigunim to sing, and in between the singing, he said amazing divrei Torah. It was something special. So.
He was very musical, correct?
Yes.
He got that from his time with the mashgiach Rebbe?
I think he came already with a chush for Nagina. One of his closest friends in Torah avodas was Rabbi Schenker, alav hashalom.
Poser.
In fact, there's a famous Hamad L'Kadosh L'Chol.
Sure, we sing it.
Yes. And Rabbi Schenker sang the niggin to Rav Wolfson as a bacher. Rav Wolfson said, I think Hamad would fit well to that niggin. Yes, that's how it became.
Did he compose Nigunim for the shul?
He composed Nigunim also, yes.
And they sing them ad hayom hazeh?
Yeah, certain Nigunim. Not many. He knew tremendous amount of Nigunim, tremendous amount. And he always picked he was always choosing the right niggin for the right moment.
That's also an art.
Yes. But I'll tell you an interesting thing. One Simchas Torah, which is a story in itself, Simchas Torah with Rav Wolfson was La'elo, La'ela. And one Simchas Torah, one of the leading Balei Menagin in the shul, was away for Yontif. So Rav Wolfson designated someone else in his place. The person said, what's the mashgiach's agenda? He meant to say, like, what are we singing? He said, my only agenda is to do the Ratzon Hashem. But even so, I was told that he would sit down before Simchas Torah and choose Nigunim that he wanted to sing at that particular time.
In that hakafa.
And that hakafa, or that night, or that day. And I think other occasions also, he would prepare Nigunim in advance on certain occasions.
I want to take a little bit of time and focus on the actual book itself. How did you put together a book that really incorporates so much of who Rav Wolfson was and just so much of his life? It must have been an incredible amount of research. Or did you know it just from being around?
I can't say I knew it. I knew quite a bit, but not nearly enough for a book of this size. No. I'm very fortunate. I have a lot of friends in the Yisrael, and I did a lot of interviews. A lot was written about him. There's a lot from recordings of him, not just his shiurim, which I used, but in certain talks to the shul, to Yungalite, he would talk about his life, spoke about how he went from being a Rebbe to a watchmaker when he lost his voice and couldn't speak.
Right.
And
2 years he was a watchmaker.
Right, and that's how he became a mashgiach, because he couldn't go back to being an elementary school Rebbe. And then I have 2 very close friends, Rabbi Aaron Lazer and Rabbi Aaron Kovitz, who are currently writing a Lashon Kodesh biography on the mashgiach. And we're, Baruch Hashem, good friends, and we made up to exchange information. So I gave them my interviews, they gave me their interviews, and that helped a lot. It helped a lot. And,
did you interview the mishpacha as well?
Sure. The mashgiach was extremely helpful, and I'm very grateful that one of the mashgiach's daughters read the entire manuscript for accuracy before it went to print. And I spoke to a lot of family members.
What's the actual process? So you interview, do you record it?
Yes.
And then you go back and you listen?
If I feel I need to. So I have it on recording, so
do you take notes while you?
I try to take notes as I'm recording. You do it usually interview over the phone, so I can take notes as we're talking.
How did you decide, like, should it follow his ages and stages, or because in the beginning of the book it starts in a different way? How do you figure that out? Like, what's the best way to write a biography? Because this is not the first book that you've written, Rabbi Finkelman.
Sure. Every author has his style, so. But what I like to do in a biography in the first chapter is sort of give an overview, who are we talking about? I don't start with his childhood. I start with giving...
I noticed.
Yeah, right. Just giving who is this tzaddik? What makes him special? What are we going to be reading about? And after that chapter, I go through his life, and then after that, different main points of his life. In the case of Rav Wolfson, Shabbos with the mashgiach, Purim with this whole chapter on Purim with the mashgiach, his midas, his unbelievable midas, such a tzaddik, such a good-hearted neshama, such a caring person for everybody, for everyone, not just for the shul. His humility. For many years, he referred to himself as the president of emunah Yisrael, not the Rav. He couldn't bring himself to call himself the Rav. Eventually, he got used to it, and even the stationery said the Rav of emunah Yisrael. But it took a while. He once got up before he went to Florida on doctor's orders in the winter and said, when the bus driver is leaving, you have to make sure that everything is in order. That's what he said. His humility was real. His humility was real.
To me, go ahead.
I once, when I was an avel for my mother, I told him that I had seen in Ger in Eretz Yisrael that all the avelim who say Kaddish stand together next to the Rebbe and say Kaddish word for word. He said, that's an excellent idea. They should do it here too. I said, where should we stand? He said, anywhere. In this shul, there's no Rebbe. And he meant it. He really meant it.
I was blown away by what you wrote, that how he was able to be careful with Shmir Soinayim for the 2 years that he went to Manhattan to be a watchmaker.
Yes.
Share it with us, because it's a different world.
Right. Well, I knew this from a friend of Rabbi Uncle Weinberger, who told me he was once going to Florida for the first time. And he knew that in Florida, with the warm weather, Shmir Shnam could be in Nisayan. And he asked Rav Wolfson, like, how do I handle this Nisayan? Rav Wolfson said to him, I was a watchmaker for a couple of years when I lost my voice, and I had to travel by train to Manhattan every day. He said I had two problems. One problem was the Shmir Shnam on the train, in the street of Manhattan. And I had a second problem. He said, my boss, I don't know who was what kind of a person he was, he said he had the radio blaring loud all day long, and at first it disturbed me very much. So I came with an idea. Every morning before leaving for work, I would decide which topic in Torah am I focusing on today. I chose a topic. And as soon as I left the house, I began thinking about that topic. And I went on the train, I didn't notice the people. I walked in the street, I was focused on what I was thinking about. I sat in my workbench and I didn't hear the radio. He said an amazing thing. He said, believe me, I wanted so desperately to go back to yeshiva, my voice should return. But at the same time, I have to tell you, I grew more in my Yiddishkeit in those 2 years as a watchmaker than in all my years in yeshiva. Wow. That's what he said.
It's like the deepest kaichas hanefesh.
Yes. And by the way, talmidim saw this later in life. He would walk down the street and he didn't notice his own talmidim because he had trained himself. He'd walk in the street. He would walk from Borough Park to Torah avodas, which is quite a nice walk. And people sometimes wondered why, why didn't he take a ride or take a car service or whatever. And he told people he did it for exercise. And people, and he once told the talmid to say, I say hello to the mashgiach in the street. Mashgiach doesn't answer me. He said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. When I walk in the street, I don't see people. I'm focused on my thoughts. I don't see people. The next time the talmid said, good morning, and he said, good morning. As soon as he heard him say good morning, he looked at him and responded.
I feel like we didn't even scratch the surface about talking about the mashgiach, and I think anyone that wants to scratch the surface should buy the book, and they should learn the book. It's not enough to read it. It's not a book that you sit on a lawn chair and you sip a lemonade. It's a book that has yisaitis for everything in life inside of it, and it shows what a person could become with real avodah.
I think so. And every day with him was special. And I think reading about him also was, that's Hashem, hopefully will be a good experience for the reader.
He should have a lichtel Gan Eden, and the schus of so many people seeing what this type of person is and what they could become should stand by you, and Hashem should continue to write many beautiful biographies.
Amen. Hatzlacha to you.
Yitzchak.